Good afternoon. Is it afternoon? It's not afternoon yet. Good day. This is Pam from Coach Pam Fitness. Hope you're having a fabulous Wellness Wednesday. Today is day 2 of Story of a Girl. And I hope you joined me for Monday's live and blog about my battle with anorexia and bulimia. And today we're going to go a little bit more into why. Disclaimer, I never actually fully got diagnosed. I sort of healed myself. I thought I could do that based on the fact that I was going to school for psychology. And so I thought that I knew it all. As a young adult, you think you know it all. So first of all, what's the difference between someone who is on a diet and someone who becomes anorexic? A person on a diet just does it to lose a little bit of weight and then they're happy with themselves. A person who becomes anorexic takes the whole dieting to an extreme. It's far more devastating. It can be far more devastating and have way more extreme consequences. Someone who is on a diet is attempting to control their weight, while someone who becomes anorexic, it becomes not about the weight per se. It becomes more about being able to control their life and being able to control your emotions. And for some people, the only way they can feel in control is by controlling what they eat, what they put into their bodies, and how much weight they can lose. And I think that, so for someone who is on a diet, they just want to lose weight. That's all. In anorexia, we think that losing weight is what's going to make us happy. It's what's going to give us self-control, give us mastery over our own selves. And you really can't master your own self. You can't control every aspect of your life and what happens to you, but that's what happens in an anorexic's mind. They think that losing the weight, they're going to become happy, we're going to become in control of everything, and we're going to be able to control our emotions. So that's the difference between dieting and anorexia. And I think that I switched over into anorexia because I felt really happy about myself for losing the 15 pounds. At the same time, I felt extremely out of control of everything that was happening in my life because I was going away to college for the first time. I was leaving home. I was going into an area that I had no idea what was going to happen, where I was going to be, who I was going to be with, because I was not going to room with any of my friends. Actually, I never even saw anybody from my high school at The Ohio State University, except the rare occasions that I could get together with my 2 best friends that were in college close to Ohio State, but not at Ohio State. So I felt very out of control, and I felt that the only way I could be in control was to restrict what I was eating. And then, because I was so painfully shy and lacked confidence in myself, I felt like the only way people would like me is if I was skinny, because that's what happened in high school. People liked the skinny girls more. And then as I met more people, I lived in a dorm my first year, and it was a co-ed dorm, which was, I think that was the first year they had co-ed floors. One half of the floor was boys, one half was girls. Well, you know how catty girls can be. I really didn't get along with I think I got along with like two girls on my floor. Hated one of my roommates, and the boys seemed to be more interested in me. And I wasn't sure if that was because I was skinny and the other girls on my floor really weren't. That's what I thought. And then, so then that turned into other self-abuses, like drinking to excess. I felt like the only way I could be free is if I drank, and then the boys liked me even more because I drank them under the table pretty much. So all these behaviors are a way of me being in control of who I thought I was, who I thought everyone around me wanted to be, and so that's what I did. And I guess it got kind of bad. I kind of blocked my whole freshman year of college out a little bit, but I didn't go home very often. And when I did, my mom would try to come in while I was changing because she wanted to look at me to see, because apparently if she saw ribs, she was pulling me out of school. I passed out like 5 times that school year. I passed out in the cafeteria line. I passed out at a concert, not from drinking, I passed out in the shower once from not eating. And so that was my freshman year. And I still didn't know who I was. I still didn't have any confidence. And then during my freshman year, I met my very first boyfriend ever. And he was super tall and super thin. And there's that whole perception in my head that I could not be heavier than my boyfriend. So that exasperated everything, and I started running on top of not eating. I had a budget of $15 a week, and this was 35 years ago. So there was no Starbucks, there was no internet, there was, none of the extras that kids today have to worry about spending money on. We had a dorm refrigerator, and occasionally we would run to the grocery store and I would buy a box of macaroni and cheese, make it without butter, without milk. Delicious. Yeah, that's some good stuff right there. Macaroni and cheese without butter and milk. I would eat it with water, and I would make it last like 4 days. A tiny little box of macaroni and cheese, I would make it last for 4 or 5 days. And that's what I would eat for the whole week because I thought the cafeteria food was gross. So I refused to eat the cafeteria food. Then when I passed out in the cafeteria line, I never went back. And so I saved my money for drinking and for cigarettes. And that's what I did. I drank and I smoked cigarettes. And I ate a box of macaroni and cheese made with just the powdered cheese and water for a whole week. And then I moved out of the dorms, and that's a whole nother story. Because I didn't have dorm food, we cooked, and so I slowly started eating. I didn't feel as like I needed to control my weight as much because I was still skinnier than my roommates. And my lack of eating turned into even more drinking and more smoking, and then that eventually led into binging and purging, which I will talk more about that on Thursday, because that whole part of my eating disorder is mostly about binging and purging. Really, the whole restricting was more my freshman year, and that was because I didn't feel in control of anything, and I felt like I could control more of what I put into my mouth. So that's my story there. I'm surprised I didn't cry, because as I was sort of writing out what I was going to say, I was crying. So I'm proud of myself for not crying. Anyway, that is my whole thing. I'm just looking at part of my research, and it says most people who have eating disorders can allow symptoms to really increase before being noticed because you're not at home. And that's pretty much what happened with me. So that's part of my story. It's going to go into a blog more about what anorexia is, more statistics. I do want to talk to you a little bit about, I'm going to read this from the National Eating Disorder.org about anorexia. It says, anorexia is the third most common chronic disease among young people after asthma and type 1 diabetes. Young people between the ages of 15 and 24 with anorexia have 10 times the risk of dying compared to their same age peers. And this is a topic I'm going to also go into about males because I'm kind of noticing some symptoms in my son. Males represent 25% of individuals with anorexia nervosa, and they are at a higher risk of dying in part due to the fact that they are often diagnosed later, since most people assume males don't have eating disorders. So that's a big misconception, and I hope why I've decided to do this series on eating disorders and talking about mine is number one, because mine have kind of started rearing their ugly heads again, but and I've noticed it in my son. Anorexia is still not talked about, and people want to hide it under the rug. People suffering from it don't talk about it. This is the first time I'm ever talking about my battle. I've never really talked about it with my mom. I've never talked about it with my husband, with my friends. People know my struggles a little bit, but I've never really talked about it. Why? Because I'm ashamed of it. I'm embarrassed by it. And it's really something that we shouldn't be ashamed. Oh, there it goes. I'm going to cry now. It's really something that we shouldn't be ashamed of. It's something that needs to come out in the open because it's such a devastating disease and illness. So here is some more stats. Their eating disorders symptoms are becoming earlier and earlier in males and females. And so our whole society of appearances and skinny, you have to be skinny, you have to look a certain way. It's really affecting our youth. I know I'm a preschool teacher. I was a preschool teacher, and even kids at 4 years old, little girls talk about their fat. And so we need to stop it, and we need to bring this out in the open, and we need to talk about it. And we need to heal our society and realize that we need to be healthy. It doesn't matter what size you are. You just need to be healthy. You need to eat healthy and just be healthy, not about a number on the scale. So I hope that if you think you know someone that is struggling with an eating disorder and they haven't talked about it, maybe you can show this video to them. And maybe you can share my blog with them that I'll post later on today, because my hope is to help someone understand they're not alone. And a lot of times when you're anorexic, you feel like you're alone. So that's what I have for you today. And I hope that this is helpful to someone out there. So thanks for watching. This is Coach Pam from Coach Pam Fitness. I hope you have a truly wonderful day.